Welcome to Northlandia, a place to bring you curiosity because here you'll find curiosities. I'm Wyatt Buckner with the Duluth News Tribune, and I will be your guide as we discover the unique and fascinating stories here in the Northland. Here we celebrate the region's distinctive people, places, and history. In this episode, we look into the legacy of a band of clowns on the Iron Range. Let's venture forth into Northlandia. Marching down Broadway Street in the Gilbert 3rd of July parade, you can hear what sounds like a marching band making its way down the street. If you look over, that's when you see a colorful cast of characters each wearing distinctive costumes, one of them carrying a drum labeled VFW Clown Band, Eveleth, Minnesota. To tell us about this unique group of musicians, I'm joined again by News Tribune reporter Teri Cadeau. Teri, welcome to episode 19 of the Northlandia podcast.
Thank you for having me, Wyatt. I'm always happy to be back.
So Teri, talking about how did you exactly find this group? I know you're in the past you've talked about being from the area of Gilbert and the Iron Range. So is there kind of that local connection again?
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up in Gilbert, Minnesota, literally a block away from Broadway Street. So every year we walk down for the 3rd of July parade. And so every year, traditionally, the clown band is one of the last things that you see in the parade. They usually close out the show, but sometimes they change it up and they're in a different position. But nevertheless, they're distinctive. You recognize them right away. You hear their drums from like half a block away, and you look up and you go, there's the clown band. Here they come. They're incredibly well known up there. They're not only in that parade, they're in a lot of local parades like Land of the Loon Festival. I believe they've done every year. They obviously do the Eveleth parade on 4th of July morning, and they're incredibly well known. They've even travel all the way down to Two Harbors and do the Heritage Days parade. So I've taken photos of them as I was working for the Lake County News Chronicle. Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Is this something that you kind of grew up with then, like every year at the parade?
Yeah, I definitely remember seeing them. Then they've done, as far back as I can remember, they've always been part of the parade. And their history, I found out while doing this story, that their history goes back an awful lot farther than that. A lot of people on the range remember them from being in the parade because they've been around since just after World War II.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you've been kind of aware of this group for a while now, both growing up and also a little bit professionally as well with the formerly deceased Lake County Chronicle. But why was now the time you felt like to do stories? Is it just because you thought it fit really well in Northlandia, or? It's
a unique thing. It's not something that you hear about. It's not incredibly common. There are other cities I've found in the U.S. who do have clown bands. They were more popular way back in the day, that time period after World War II, but it is pretty distinct and unique to this area. It's something that we're known for. It's something that when people see it, they know it. People here in Duluth may remember them. They made several appearances back in the day in the Christmas City of the North Parade, so people may remember them from back then. Obviously, their membership has changed over the years from when they first started. It's a lot of fathers and sons, a lot of fathers and sons, other people brought in who did marching band and then wanted to keep doing that, keep a connection to the music and have an excuse to dress up every year and to play songs. And there may be some drinking of beer involved. At least they sing an awful lot about drinking of beer. I'd be surprised if if there wasn't involved at all. And they're very much just a kind of a tight-knit group who this is a thing that they like to do together.
Mm-hmm. And we touched on this a little bit, but what is the group exactly?
It's a band of people who dress up in costumes every year for around the 4th of July and a little bit before. They sing songs about, mostly polka songs. They play them and they sing them. They get the crowd riled up. And literally their goal is to bring positivity and joy to people. It's to liven things up a bit. Mm-hmm. Some might say cause some ruckus, a little bit as well.
And what kind of costumes are we talking about here? Because, when you hear a band of clowns, your first mind goes to just like Ronald McDonald,
right.
Like a string of clowns. And I wasn't at the parade myself, but I got to see the photos and a little bit of video that photographer Jed Carlson took. And it's very much a plethora of different costumes. I think I saw a couple of Dr. Seuss costumes. I think it was like Thing 1 and Thing 2. Some jerseys, hockey jerseys, I think. And there was someone dressed up as Jesus, I think.
Yeah, there was Jesus
photos.
this year.
So, what's going on with these costumes?
So when I asked the group about how do you decide who picks what costume, who wears what, I got just a big laugh of like, it's every band for himself. It's very much on your own to decide what you want to do. A lot of them developed their thing over the years. So maybe they started out doing different things every year, and then they've decided that this is my costume. For example, a guy who I graduated with, Tim Tuscan, he wears a hockey jersey. He grows his hair out every year, so he has a hockey hair, and he has a black eye, does things like that. So it's very much what you want to do with it. There's one man who is always wearing a dress bag, so like a suit dress bag that you would get if you buy. In fact, his story is he bought a suit. He punched out a hole for his arm and for his head in the dress bag, and he wears a dress bag and a like umbrella hat every year. That became his thing, his signature look. It very much depends on the person and their style and their personality. It's very much a chance for them to express themselves and do whatever they want to do with that is fun.
Mm-hmm. So they're not literally
literal clowns. Some people kind of go more traditional. A lot of people vary it up. It's whatever they want to do costume, something fun and recognizable.
So where'd the name of like a band of clowns come from then? If they're not actually like dressed as clowns, there's a couple.
They started out dressed up very traditionally as clowns.
The origin was that they were clowns, and now
very much clowns, and they are still clown-ish. I mean, they're still wigs. There's still people who wear noses and pieces like that. It started up very much more traditionally clown, and it kind of evolved over the years as people grew. It started out as actually a division of the Eveleth VFW Drum and Bugle Corps. You had to do a couple years in the Drum and Bugle Corps before you could be allowed to join the Eveleth Clown Band. That was the we trust you now. You can go into the clown band and have some fun with this parade.
Gotcha. And how many members are there currently, and who did you all speak with for the story?
So their membership definitely varies. It's varied a lot over the years as people have like come and grown and stayed with the band or left the band because they've moved out of the area or whatever. I will say they have a lot more people on the 3rd and the 4th of July parades than they do for most of any other parades. But even with 8 people, you can hear them from down the street. They're very, very loud and rambunctious. I spoke with a lot of the old time members like Chris Vito, Paul Tuscan, Tim Tuscan, his son, and Ethan Allen, that's the man in the dress bag, and and Sam Pappin was another one who I spoke with. And they told me a lot of stories that they didn't necessarily want included, a lot of stories that they were okay with having printed. They've had some adventures. They've had some fun for sure.
Gotcha. And so how did the group originally form? I know you've touched on it's been around a long time. You obviously grew up with it. But what exactly is the origin of the group? So
it started by a group of veterans right after World War II. So they came back to the area and they decided they wanted to do something to bring some joy back to the area. There'd been a lot of loss and a lot of sadness, but also joy and elation from after, the war, people being able to return, but they thought it'd be a good way to kind of bring some joy to the area. It kind of fell away after a couple of years, and then in the 1960s, Chris Vito, his father, and a couple of other members brought it back and started having it become a regular thing that they would do every year. And then over the years, it's just kept going. Ebbs and flows. Some years it's big, some years it's not. And I will say most recently, a big development has been they started doing, about 15 years ago, a scholarship. So they get paid a performance fee for being in the different parades and such. And they take that money and they put it back in the community by giving it to a Eveleth Gilbert, and I'm sure now it would be Rockridge, but Eveleth Gilbert student who is involved in band and there's no like GPA like minimum for it. It's literally just you were involved in band, you want to go to college, here's a $500 scholarship that you can apply for.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. They do ask that you then try, be in the clown band for a year or two, I believe. But it's willingness, yeah. And I will say this year, they had a lot of really good applicants, so they ended up giving away 3 scholarships to 3 different band members. So 3 $500, they increased it. People just from the band donated money, so they could give 3 away instead of just 1. And yeah, so they're very hopeful for the future that we're going to have the clown band for many more years to come.
Mm-hmm. Is this their first time they've done 3, or does it kind of maybe fluctuate year to year?
No, I think they said this is the first time that they've done 3. So
that's cool.
This is a big year.
Mm-hmm. So I think it sounds like they're kind of hopeful they'll keep the momentum going, maybe?
Yeah, they'll keep people invested and paying it forward to those kids of the future and see if they'll keep coming back.
Mm-hmm. One of the things you spoke to me about earlier was when they do performance, or something about do like a speech before they perform.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
So this is something that I believe Paul Tuscan does, or if not Chris Vita, whoever's around in the group who's kind of an older member of the group, they will give a speech to the band before they go out, before every parade, just to kind of get everyone in the zone of, we're here to have fun, we're here to cheer everyone up, this is for the kids, this is for, everyone here, and these are some of the members that we've lost. We're doing this to honor them and in memory of them. Let's go out there and do this. It's a come together moment before every parade, especially the 3rd and 4th of July ones.
We had lost Jags, and maybe we said a thing or two, but it was when Torx and MJ died.
Yeah.
And they died within a few months of each other in that same year, Dick, because remember I emailed you and whatnot. That's how that truly started, and, meet on the hubcap. And then it grew into a life of its own. Yeah, it's somber, but there's also a lot of humor in that speech, too. But it's to remember all our people, that Silovich, Janzi, Tommy Multru.
I love that.
It's to remember all those, Louis Pazzelli.
Gentilini?
Anyone that went before us. And that's how it started, because there was never really any of that. And I think I started it because... Well, MJ was my best friend, and Torx and I had known each other since we were 4 years old. And that was such a tough... We lost 2 of those guys within 5 months of each other, and you started doing it. And then it just grew. It just grew. But it is, let's go have a great one. It's kind of a... It's that, but it's a rally. Let's do this.
It's a pep talk.
It's a pep talk. Let's do this. Let's go entertain.
It's a pep talk. It's a tradition now.
So you mentioned earlier that the number of members kind of fluctuates. It kind of depends on which performance is going on, and just how does that all work in terms of like having rehearsals / coordinating for these performances? Who's going to be about? How do they plan for these things, I guess?
Well, they do have a Facebook group, and so they kind of keep in touch with each other a lot through that. I know also Paul's wife, Vicky, is also highly involved in making sure that they get to where they need to go and get there on time and get things going together. And they have one practice a year. So they have one practice out at the Tuscans' house, and they get together and they have a beverage or two, and they do some practicing and make sure everyone knows how it works and get new members kind of used to what's going on, get them drumming, get them ready to go. Yeah. And after that, it's go time. The next morning, that's usually the Friday before Land of the Loon, and the next morning they're performing. It's it's time to go. It's very much a trial by fire. Are you ready? Well, all right, let's go. And they are always looking for new members. So if you're someone in the region, you're like, hey, I know how to drum. Hey, I know how to play a trumpet. They are definitely looking for people to join them.
And you have to like wearing weird.
You do have to like wearing a costume.
Costumes.
You have to like be willing to wear something a little bit bold in public. You can't be too shy about that.
Mm-hmm. And as we mentioned a couple times before, like you've been aware of this group for a while.
Yeah.
Like you watched them growing up, and then encountered them a few times on the job. But what was it like for you now to actually speak with them directly and kind of learn their story a little bit? One, what was that experience like? And two, was there anything that you learned through talking to them that maybe surprised you or like kind of added a new perspective to a group that you've been kind of observing for a while now?
I'll say I had no idea how far back their history went. I didn't know that they had started right after World War II. I didn't know that they had performed once at the Rose Bowl back in the day, back in that World War II group had performed at the Rose Bowl and apparently did very well. Like they got a lot of applause and a lot of celebration for that. So I didn't know how far back that history went. And then talking to the group, when you get a bunch of Irish guys talking to each other, everyone has at least 3 different nicknames, and they're all talking over each other all at once. And it's very, very much a group of. You can tell there's a huge amount of camaraderie, and like they're people who spend a lot of time together, have a lot of stories together, have a lot of common shared history, and yeah, it's definitely a group of people who are very close together, and it shows. And that's why they do this every year. That's what keeps them coming back. That's what they said is the camaraderie. It's kind of a family of a sort. In fact, they get their families involved. In fact, for example, Paul Tuscan talks a lot about how he got his son Tim involved, and Tim's really involved, and he plays the big bass drum that says the Eveleth VFW Clown Band on it. And he was literally born into it because he was born on the 4th of July.
Camaraderie.
Yeah, it's the camaraderie. Yeah, we love it.
It's a form of a family.
Yeah, it basically it is, because we've got to be really good friends, all of us, through the years, and it's just great to get together. We look forward to it every year.
It's like you said, it's generational. It's like this is family reunion.
All right, Teri, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you again so much for bringing this to us. Look forward to seeing what you have for us next time.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to come back.
And thank you for joining us on this venture into Northlandia. To read the article for this week's column, as well as see photos by Jed Carlson, visit duluthnewstribune.com/topics/Northlandia. You can find all the episodes of Northlandia on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you or someone you know has a unique story that you believe can have a place here in Northlandia, let us know by emailing northlandia@duluthnew's.com. Join us again next week and discover the extraordinary stories that you just might miss if you're on the right place at the right time, ready to step off the beaten path with no rush to return, here in Northlandia.